Hello and welcome everyone. We're so glad you could join us for this special webinar in collaboration with the Global Alliance for the Rights of Nature Youth Hub and Youth for Ecocide Law. Our topic today is listening to the voice of Mother Earth, an Indigenous youth perspective. In this session, we'll be centering ecocentric worldviews and honoring the deep wisdom, traditions, and lived experiences of Indigenous communities who have been protecting the Earth for generations. We're honored to be joined today by an incredible panel of speakers: Quetza Ramirez, Qurratul aina, Firdaus Sani, Isabella Zizi, Wara, Ruiz Condori, and Morris Mburu, who will each share their unique perspectives, stories, and visions for a thriving planet. Let's open our minds and hearts to truly listen to the voice of Mother Earth through these grounded insights. Bonnie, I'll pass over to you now so you can introduce our first speaker.
Thank you, Courtney. Our first speaker will be Quetza Ramirez. They are a two-spirit Indigenous scholar, global educator, and community organizer of Mexica, Aztec heritage with lineage from what is now Puebla, Mexico. Although raised without direct cultural teachings due to displacement, they have been reclaiming their identity through ceremony, movement spaces, and political educations since a transformative awakening at Standing Rock in 2016. Quetza's work spans earth-based advocacy, cross-cultural leadership, and Indigenous-centered communications, grounded in lived experience, ceremony, and a vision of liberation rooted in coexistence and reciprocity. Would you like to begin?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Coco, and thank you, Bonnie, and thank you everyone here who's attending to the webinar and also all the speakers here. Yes, my name is Quetza, and before I get started, I would just like to invoke the four directions and honor the four directions, honor the sky, honor the earth, the four-legged relatives, the water relatives, the insects, all the beings, all the living beings, and the stone people too. And I think this is like what I'm going through right now is like this learning to honor Mother Earth every time we show up to these webinars, which can be a little bit more Western from my perspective. But I think the title of the webinar made me think about like opening up with a small prayer, right? I think I could keep going and kind of elaborate on what prayer looks like. And I've been fortunate enough to be in ceremonial spaces in which I've learned different types of prayers or the way that different tribes and indigenous folks pray. And I think that like that has really influenced the work that I do with GARN and the rights of nature and the work that I do, the advocacy work that I do for climate justice, indigenous liberation, and decolonial practices. And the reason that I can kind of fire off all those terms is because that's what I focused on my thesis, and so it's something that I've researched pretty extensively, and I'm still learning. I find myself learning a lot through ceremony because what I was missing in academic spaces while I was getting my master's was the ceremonial component to it, and it's timing is so interesting because the first time that I heard the drum, as Bonnie was introducing me, I identify from the Mexica lineage, but I don't have anyone in my immediate family that practices our traditional ways. And so it was in 2019 when I first heard the sound of a drum and at like the Aztec drumming, and therefore I got inspired to do dance and to reconnect. And that since 2019 I've been on this path. And so um it didn't come to me. I wasn't born in an indigenous home. I was born in a very Mexican home, and so there's a lot of unlearning and contextualizing that I've gone through. And then when I think about it in the grand scheme of things, like the rights of nature movement helps me advocate for indigenous wisdom as I'm also reconnecting with my own indigenous identity and my traditional ways. And this has been a very powerful journey. It has led me into many beautiful spaces, a lot of spaces with now Zizi and movement rights, and a lot of GARN spaces. We can as well. All these organizations doing beautiful work, and combining the ceremonial components with the academic legal stuff is heavy. It's heavy because there's a lot of things that kind of go in contradiction, right? I think indigenous wisdom talks about living closer to the land, respecting all living beings. There is no egocentric model. It's all ecocentric, and every living being has the right to thrive and to live without disturbance or without intentional harm. And so on the other end, the advocacy work that we do brings me to think about how we're constantly battling. Ever since, I mean, I think every climate activist here will say they've been battling, and some may know when they started battling, or started the struggle, and others may not know how long it's been. And so it's to be a climate activist means to be in this battle, right? And I think I don't want to use battle in a negative way. I think the warrior spirit of fighting for Mother Earth and like bringing and channeling that energy for her and all her relatives and all her children. I think that like this struggle is connected to something deeper, and this is how what I'm learning constantly learning in ceremony. It's just like this going back home, right? I think every time I go into a ceremony space, I learn something deeper about Mother Earth and the information and the beauty that is just inherent in all that we see. And so listening to Mother Earth, it can sound easy, but it's been a very, very long and deep and transformational process. And one way I think that like the rights of nature really speaks to my heart is that when I get really fired up about what the rights of nature movement hopes to accomplish and hopes to kind of succeed, it's like for these living beings that can't speak English, right? And so I get really passionate because how cool would it be to envision a council of like, representatives of whales and monkeys and giraffes and rhinos, right? Like if we had indigenous folks that are super close and have these relational bonds with these living beings, and we had a council, a global council that respected and was listening to the needs of every animal or every animal relative, right? And as well as like the the way that our society or the way that our human story has unfolded. um the rights of nature movement, I think, may position certain practices like extraction and oil drilling and fossil fuel and mining. Anything that harms the earth is definitely stuff that we have to end and restructure to be more I don't want to use the word sustainable, but I want to because sustainable can be tricky, because I think that there's like natural based false solutions that come up when people say sustainable. But I think what we're looking for is like harmony. Can I be in harmony with all the land relatives immediately near me? Can we function as a large society of group of people to be in harmony with Mother Earth? And so I think harmony is hard because my needs don't go like the way that I've interpreted the the rights of nature movement into like ceremonial context, as well as like my own lived experience, is that my harmony for me and my needs and my desires don't triumph over the needs of the water. So I think an example of that would be that if I wanted to go into the river, but I had just like sprayed like a bunch of things that could be potentially toxic to the animals in the river, that's something that I have to be really conscious and mindful about, because my my comforts and my needs don't triumph over the needs of the water. Because then if you follow that line of water, then you have a lot of folks dependent on the clean water, and also the fish for to thrive need the water to be clean. And so here we come to a very interesting way of like how, or the ways that I'm thinking about the rights of nature in practice. And so then many we have many ways in that we need to be like aware. Like I find myself being really aware of like the stop ecocide laws, and how, or at least the movement for it stopping ecocide, anything that can be kind of defined as ecocide, should just be the status quo for how we navigate our development as a larger society or as a larger group of folks, um, combined with the rights of nature, right? Because there's a lot of education that comes with this. I think those of us here on this panel are very fortunate to have been embedded and immersed in these fields, because for some folks outside of these spaces, I feel like they're not as passionate about the rights of nature and stop ecocide and, you know, the rights of the water, the rights of Alaska. But I think those of us that are here today, and I see a number of folks here in the on the Zoom, on the webinar, like I'm very happy to see that these many folks are joining tonight or today. I'm sure there's a lot of time zones, and so we we are learning along the way to inspire others. I hope that everyone, what they, you know, I'm starting off the webinar, but we're going to hear a lot more wisdom from the folks that follow me. I hope that everyone takes something from here and passes it on. Don't just keep it to yourself, because that's like a very important part of being a good relative, is not not just taking information for yourself and not sharing it. You have to share it. It's important to share these beautiful moments and these beautiful questions, and you don't have to be an expert of anything. You can just ask the question, like, what would this look like? Why don't we do this, etc. Because questions lead to curiosities, and curiosities lead to good ideas, and then therefore we can create a good movement to on this path of what I call collective liberation, liberation from harm, liberation from repression, liberation from um, any sort of force that imputes the natural, the inherent right, for all living beings. And so, as my time comes to a close, I will, yeah, just thank you all for listening. It's kind of hard to start off the webinar, but I know it's gonna be packed with a lot of good stuff. And you know, I think I did choose to be softer on the, I guess, the ideas, because it's all relational. This the rights of nature. I mean, the education is a lot of amazing education. Please reach out to GARN Youth Hub or Stop Ecocide Youth for any resources on all this beautiful stuff. The information's out there, but the way that it's kind of shared and the way that it exists is dependent on us. And so I find myself, you know, trying to like make it fun, make it engaging, make it something that you want to do. So I am here, I'm aware that I'm on a webinar, so I'm trying to encourage and trying to educate, trying to make this fun so that it's not doesn't feel like someone talking at you. And I you know, I hope that we can meet in person one day, and or you know, see each other at the next Rights of Nature symposium. Shout out to the Mashpee folks who just did an amazing symposium. And yeah, no, it's gonna be a good movement. I'm glad that those folks that are on are here, and I think that I'll close out with you may come across a lot of terminology like the fall of capitalism. Um, you might come across collective liberation, and then you might ask, like, how do we get there, and what we do, like, what do we need to do to get there? And I would encourage you, as you kind of continue to study and learn the ways that the rights of nature and stop ecocide laws will help us will fulfill. One part of it would be also just to go talk to the trees, go pray to the water, put your feet on the soil. And these things may sound like, or you may have heard these things, but these are ways that like your soul and your being can connect deeper to Mother Earth. And by doing this consistently and developing a practice and developing a relationship with all aspects of Earth, information comes through that will also inspire you to change and grow in beautiful ways that will lead you to where you're meant to go, because we all have different roles in this on this earth. And I just, you know, I'm excited to see what the future holds. I'm definitely an optimistic person, and I call myself radically optimistic. But I don't see another way, especially when you're really embedded in the rights of nature. It's really easy to fall in love with the idea that we will get to collective liberation, and we will. It's a matter of fact. It's not if, it's just when. And so with that, I'll close and I'll pass it back to Coco to introduce the next speaker. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Quetza. Bonnie, I'll pass it over to you.
Yes, thank you so much, Quetza, for sharing your personal connection to your ceremonies and its relation to rights of nature, ecocide, and your wish to encourage collective liberation. Our next speaker is Qurratul Aina. She is an international relations graduate, environmental advocate, and youth empowerment enthusiast from Aceh, Indonesia. She works to amplify youth voices in environmental governance and champion inclusive participation for marginalized communities. Her experience includes climate education in schools, published research on sustainable land use, and campaigns for the rights of indigenous wetland communities in Aceh, including Payani, Simpang Li, and Rawa Tripa. Through her work with the NGO Aceh Wetland Forum, she advocates for community-led conservation and systemic change for wetlands.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm really grateful to being here and to be one of the amazing speakers here. And first thing first, I would like to share what I have advocate and campaign in my area, of course, here. So I have sent the panelists that one of PPT or PowerPoint that I will share in this webinar. So would you mind to help me to share screen first? So then I would like to speak about that. Thank you very much. Yeah, here we go. So as the second speakers, because I believe a lot of people here and they're a lot of amazing speakers, of course, and they have their own unique ways to and approach in advocating for the right of indigenous communities, right? So in this session, I would like to share some of the method and initiative that I have been carried out in our region. I sincerely hope this greeting will serve as a platform for continuous collaboration in the future for us. So first thing first, let me introduce myself. My name is Qurratul Aina, and you can call me Aina. I am from AWF Aceh Wetland Forum in Aceh. Next slide, please. So let me introduce first what is my organization are and where I come from. I come from AWF, Aceh Wetland Forum, is a non-profit organization that dedicated to wetland conservation, education, and climate action. Our mission is simple but urgent: to protect wetlands, empower communities, include campaign about the right of indigenous people, and raise youth awareness also. We do this through different initiatives, developing school education like module to teach children for wetlands, working on mangrove and peatlands protection, and creating community empowerment program. Through this work, we are not only conserving nature, but also continuing a long cultural tradition like the belief that human must live in balance with the land and water that sustain us. Without the balance, both nature and people will suffer at the end of the day. So next slide. Yeah, here we go. Our F team. We are 5 here in Aceh in Biren, but yeah. Next. Okay, here we go. What we actually do in our area or in our project. As you see in the right, in the right side on the screen, you can see the map. We are in Indonesia, and Aceh province is located in northern tip of Sumatra Island, one of the most important place where our work case road is in Payani. That the small one is Payani, located in Biren, Aceh. This is my place, right? So because of that, our approach here is to raise the voice of the indigenous communities so they can protect the wetlands that are an essential part of their life. Let we see why these wetlands need protection. Let's see together. So the Payani, that the wetland names, the Payani. Payani swamp is about 300 hectares wide. The indigenous people using it for fishing, collecting purun. Purun is, you can see the grass that a plant that rise in the wetland. So this plant is used for the traditional weaving. as water, and also the Payani itself is using for the water source for farming. Next slide. But then, however, this Payani is under threat right now because they are Payani is suffering from illegal logging, large-scale conversion to palm oil plantation, and drain its water. Birds are being hunted, so migratory birds no longer come here anymore. And moreover, outsiders come to Payani to fish using destructive methods such as booming or using electricity, which kills many fish. So because of that, this is under threat to Payani. So here we go. This situation is make the indigenous people who are live inside Payani and around the Payani is worried. That's why we are as a non-government organization is come here to speak up for the right of indigenous people and to help to create customary rules that can protect the Payani through indigenous law. Next slide, please. And inside Payani, you can see that what we have in our area is first thing first is intimate connection between people and wetlands. So you can hear that people is using it for farming, fishing, collecting plants, and this is so we can see here Payani or this wetlands is not only about the survival but also about the identity of Aceh, our culture. They shape the indigenous people here. They shape songs, stories, and how actually they do activities with these wetlands. So losing Payani would mean losing more than just a wetlands for us here. This is what means losing a living culture. So we cannot do the handcraft that you can see in the picture. This is one of the product that used in the plant from the Payani. And next, please. So here we go. And respond this threat, the Payani community, we are as AWF, we make some local customary law created to protect wetlands. The rules inside them is no illegal logging anymore. We restricted land conversion, sustainable fishing, and farming customary leaders. So we are in Aceh, we are really good and religious leader. So because of that, indigenous people itself, we use them as the leader that to lead the community to protect the wetlands. So if the outsider is come there, they cannot to hunt it bird anymore or fishing fish by bombing or electricity. So everything is going so traditional, but that's good for us. We say that because this is can protect wetland itself for Payani. So next slide, please. Yeah, we are here, of course, cannot stand by ourselves. We work hand in hand with different stakeholders. We collaborate with local government of Biren, academic for Al Muslim University, and yeah, indigenous people itself is really happy when we are come here. Yet, yet we also face the challenges. Our voices are not always recognized and resources are limited. So this is why we are standby to collaborate with national or international to stand up our voices that our indigenous people as still need help for us to make this to protect this, maybe to protect the indigenous right. So yeah, and next please. Yeah, you can see here the picture is the picture of Payani indigenous communities. They are up. Okay, my time is up. So you
Halfway
have
through, sorry, halfway through.
Oh yeah. Okay, thank you. So that that's all what I can say. the local government and youth involvement, of course, myself and the peers in Aceh Wetland Forum campaign and educators on wetland protection that so a lot of people will aware about that. So that's all I guess I can say. The last word that I want to say in this forum is wetlands are not just water and soil, they are memory, identity, and hope. So because of that, if we silence to their voice, we silence to our own future and end of the day. So because of that, I would like to end my speech. Thank you very much for listening. Give you back to moderator. Thank you.
Thank you so
Hi,
much.
Aina. Oh, I'm just letting you know you still have some more time. I wasn't rushing you. I was just letting you know we were halfway through. So you still have some more if you want to complete the presentation and if you want to say any more. And also, if you could just hold your microphone a little bit closer. It was cutting out.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Yeah. Thank you very much. But you can see in the next slide, please. This is a really end of my presentation. Thank you very much. Yeah, the key message of international that I have, I explained that yeah, we need the collaboration in national or international, so to protect the wetlands. Next slide. And here we go. We end of our slide. So thank you very much. That's all for me. Maybe if anyone else need a question or yeah Q&A, we can continue it in the next session. Thank you. That's all from me.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Aina, for the in-depth presentation on Aceh Wetland Forum and its ties to indigenous communities. Yeah, so our next speaker is Firdaus Sani. He is a fourth generation Orang Laut / Pulau descendant and founder of Orang Laut Singapore, dedicated to preserving the heritage of Pulau Semakau. He advocates for indigenous voices, representation in education and public discourse, and has shared his work through a TED youth talk, the Singapore Writers Festivals, and performances at Esplanade Theatre. Recognized as one of Singapore's local legends by homecombers and features in prestige magazines 40 Under 40, Firdaus also founded the Black Sampan, a social enterprise supporting local nonprofits in fundraising and social impact work, alongside his experience with WWF Singapore. Over to you, Firdaus.
Hi, hello, good morning, everyone. Sorry, give me 1 second. I'm just trying to share my screen. Okay. Okay, here we go. Hope it's loading. Okay. Thank you so much for having me. I think I have 15 minutes, so we don't have a lot of time. But I wanted to say thank you for having me here, and really nice to hear from other indigenous groups and to hear the different or also similar challenges that you guys may have faced. So I will start the presentation with introducing who are the indigenous people in Singapore. And based on Article 152 of the Singapore Constitution, the Malays and the indigenous people in Singapore. However, this is also a byproduct of colonization and a byproduct of trying to categorize Malays as just Malays. But within the Malay archipelago, we have many subcultures. And even in Singapore as well, we have many subcultures like the Javanese, we have the Minangkabau, the Boyanese, the Javanese, and also the Malays. And we also have the Orang Laut, the indigenous people of Singapore. So the indigenous people are nomadic sea tribes who live in parts of Singapore. And the Orang Laut means people of the sea. And as people of the sea, we have different groups. We have been around for centuries. The earliest recording that we have of the Orang Laut goes beyond 7th to 11th century. These are the Orang Gelam, the Suku Gelam. And we also have the Orang Seletar that has been recognized as one of the indigenous people in Malaysia because of our close proximity to Malaysia. You can actually see the map here. The red maps people of Orang Seletar who used to navigate our seas in Singapore or our land. And if you look into where they are now, they have been relocated to parts of Malaysia. We also have the Orang Kalang. Orang Kalang were people who moved to different parts of Singapore, especially the Kalang River. And we have the Orang Salat. Orang Salat are Straits people, and Straits people who maneuver towards areas in the Malay archipelago, especially the Riau Islands and to Singapore Southern Islands. And in the 1960s to 70s, a lot of the community members have been relocated. From the 1800s, they have settled on some of the southern islands, and they later called Orang Pulau, which is people of the island. So my family is one of the Orang Pulau. We came from an island called Pulau Semakau. My grandparents left the island in 1977 to make way for development. And this is a photo of my late grandmother and my family. And I will talk more about my ancestral land. Semakau comes from the word bakau, which means mangrove in Malay. And if we look into the map here, we have an old map that depicts the ecology of the island. On the right side here, you can actually see the mangroves. The island is made out of three parts: Kampung Tengah, Tanjung Romos, and Tanjung Penyalai. And the little dots you see lining the beach are homes. And what I love about this particular map is also the depiction of corals that's around the area. And these corals are important to the livelihoods of the islanders, and especially the mangroves as well. And today, our island is a landfill. It has been turned into Singapore's only landfill because of land scarcity. And Singapore used to be made up of many islands. I think people might have the impression that Singapore is just a city-state, but Singapore is made up of 77 islands. And now we have 64 islands. And a lot of the islands have been changed because of land reclamation to make way for development. Some of the things that have been turned into is petrochemical companies, such as this particular photo. In the 1960s, this photo was taken on 14th of June. This is to officiate the launch of Shell Fuel Company. At the back, there is a nicely dressed gentleman who is seemingly Western, and at the front is Goh Keng Swee, the then minister, who chopped off the reign of the forest tree to commemorate the launch of Shell Fuel Company. And you can actually see from then on, a lot of community members have moved to mainland Singapore. You look at how Singapore has further developed, and the white parts here are the reclaimed areas. I want to show you in particular this area, which is on the left side. This is the biggest refinery in Singapore. This is Jurong Island, a cluster of island. It used to be made up of 13 islands. And all of these islanders were moved to mainland Singapore on the west side of Singapore. And a lot of these community members are very hard to trace and has assimilated within the Malay community in Singapore. And other than that, we also have places that have been further developed, such as Pulau Sudong, which is now a military site. So a lot of community members also face different challenges when they move to mainland Singapore, which I'll share a bit more. Looking into how our community's census is actually a small community in the thousands. For example, Pulau Bukom had about 1,200 individuals, and Pulau Semakau, where my ancestral island is made up of 780 people. They moved to areas such as Pasir Panjang, Kampung Baru, Teluk Blangah, which is more to the coastal areas in Singapore. And also, it is areas whereby a lot of rental housing were at, where poverty is quite rampant. So when they moved to mainland Singapore, a lot of them didn't have the necessary education to adapt into mainland Singapore. So the challenges were real. Even when it happened 50 years ago, I think a lot of the impacts can be felt today as well. And talking about impacts, the impacts for relocation, when we lose land, we lose culture, traditions, livelihoods, and values. And I think we try to acknowledge that the social economical impacts can last through generations as well. Sometimes it's really hard to break the poverty cycle when the systems is unfairly built against a certain community. And I think the adjustment of social identity is also very difficult for the communities as well. And because of the lack of conservation of spaces such as islands and other heritage spaces, we lose cultural identity. And I think the lack of recognition of indigenous communities in Singapore as well, I think that pose a problem because when we don't recognize, we left it in the past. This is a photo of me, and I believe 2 years old when we visited the island. So when we moved, my family moved in 1977, my grandparents felt that they wanted to go back to the island because of how tight their livelihoods are, and they were moved to the mainland in their 60s. So my grandfather took it upon himself to return to Millennials to the island where it was abandoned, and he would leave on the jetty on his boat to gather food to make sure that he's able to support his family of 10 children. So this was an article found in the 1990s of my late grandparents when a group of archaeologists spotted them on the deserted island, and they asked, "What are you doing here?" And they mentioned that we live here and this is our island. And shortly after, the island was turned into a landfill. And when we talk about the island itself, we also acknowledge that there is a lot of animism and environmental protection that connects and binds communities, and the belief systems that have been lost. When we talk about Semakau, we also talk about her protectors. And I learned growing up to respect spaces, to respect nature, because of we as communities or humans share this space with other beings as well that we may or may not see. So there are different penunggus or guardians of the island, and there's also beliefs of animism as well that has been shared not only in Singapore but across the wider Nusantara, especially our shared beliefs and traditions are shared among coastal communities in Riau and the Orang Suku Laut in Bintan and Riau as well. And we also have very similar values to the Orang Pajau in Sulawesi, the Philippines, and Indonesia. And when we talk about Singapore is always coined to used to be a fishing village, but actually, fishing doesn't come in one form. There's many different forms, and what we try to do in Orang Laut SG is acknowledge that these are all traditional crafts and indigenous wisdom, understanding the nooks and crannies of the seas and the environment that we're in, and the appreciation of nature. So this is a photo of two 70-year-old siblings who are still going out at sea in Singapore using their sampan. They do boo fishing once every week. And what we try to do is also acknowledge and protect our heritage space, which is a community space at West Coast Park. And to make sure that we are able to thrive. It used to be an entire stretch. Now we are left with this one little circle here. And unfortunately, you can actually see the expansion of the yacht club just opposite our community space, and it's ever expanding. So how do we keep our spirit of the sea alive? I think in Singapore, in such a modern country, there are various ways. We started Orang Laut SG as an Instagram page. We use 3 different pillars using food, art, and stories to talk about our islands and also indigenous values and traditions. And right now we have been documenting our oral history because we don't want to only rely on academia for our history and how our narratives are being shaped. So it's also taking an agency on how our narratives are being told and what our community wants to share. So the documentation starts from the islands to the wider Riau archipelago and how connected we are to the Malay archipelago. We also run programs with schools and other organizations, and we use food as an important vehicle to talk about our culture, our traditional food or indigenous food that is relied on very simple ingredients that can be found at sea. And we use art as a way to talk about intangibles. For example, using poetry to talk about mantras, to talk about our ancestral wisdom, where we could then repackage it and perform on a wider stage. One example is we performed at Esplanade and invited to Indigenous people to weave the bamboo trap as a symbol of continuity. So this is a father and child pairing. And we also had set up Tanah dan Air, a heritage garden that focuses on three main themes, which is growing of plants at the basis of food, medicine, and cultural beliefs. And we have run programs there as well with universities and also art museum, where we activate a space to be a workshop and a sharing of Indigenous knowledge. And recently we have pushed Hari Orang Pulau. I think the photo you saw earlier about that man who chopped off the tree, which is the Delhi minister in 1960. So we used the date 14 June 1960, which is the exact day where the tree was chopped off, to reclaim our narrative. We said that 14 June 1960 is also one of the important moments that we want to reclaim. So Hari Orang Pulau is Islanders Day, and I think for the first time in many decades, we were recognized as Indigenous people in the media. And we got quite media coverage. I think the good thing is we received more momentum, where we are able to highlight some of our key elements that made up Singapore's island identity. And yes, some of the photos here. And we also look at advocacy as an important tool, and the celebration is also a form of advocacy to say that we're not left in the past, we are still present. And some of our advocacy efforts look into protecting our heritage space here. You can see the little star, and the Greater Southern Waterfront Project is a project that's going to be developing the entire region here, the southwest of Singapore, that's going to be developed for condos and BTO projects, which is the build to order HDB projects. So what we try to do is to have more efforts into preserving our heritage space. We brought some questions into Parliament and worked with the minister as much as we could, and we brought them to the community space as well to hear from the community of what they want. And our long-term goal is to build an Indigenous Learning Center, and this is something that we take reference from places like Hawaii, and also places like New Zealand as well, and Malaysia even. Yes, I think I wanted to end this session with poetry. I don't think I can play the music. Are we able to hear?
Sampai sekarang maafkan kami Ibu. Ampuni kami Tuhan. Kami serahkan. Kami selalu hidup merasa berkekurangan. Padahal manusia, makhluk hidup yang lebih tinggi dari makhluk yang lain. Terima kasih.
So this poetry was recently from Bogor in Jakarta, sorry, in Indonesia. So we will add Indigenous forum with other Indigenous groups, and this particular Indigenous woman from Kalimantan shared a beautiful poetry, and one paragraph that she mentioned that really stuck with me was about without forests, we do not have bones. Without the sea, we would not have blood. So I think that is something that I would want to share and end with. Thank you.
Sampai sekarang.
Thank you so much.
Ampuni kami Tuhan.
All right. Thank you, Firdaus, for highlighting significance of Indigenous Islanders and descendants' perspective in reclaiming narratives, as well as the solidarity of island communities as their protectors. Our next speaker is Isabella Zizi. In Northern Cheyenne and Misaji Creek, and an enrolled member of the three affiliated tribes. Based in the Bay Area, she is the frontline community organizer focused on climate justice, food justice, youth empowerment, rights of nature, and cultural preservation. The youngest leading member of Idle No More, San Francisco Bay, Isabella works closely with the Indigenous Grandmother Advisors and is a signatory of the Indigenous Women of the Americas Defending Mother Earth Treaty, leading and participating in nonviolent direct actions on each solstice and equinox. As an organizer with movement rights, she supports Indigenous communities in advancing rights of nature. In 2024, she was honored at the 21st Annual American Indian Heritage Night for embodying resilience and the spirit of Indigenous resistance. Over to you, Isabella.
No, thank you so much, Bonnie, and appreciate everyone who had spoke before me and appreciate those who will speak after me. I just want to express more gratitude for the words that were shared previously, and lots of different feelings were coming up, lots of different memories or moments that were coming up, but I think the words that want to be shared tonight is a little story. And excuse my cat as she comes in and out. She loves talking when I'm, or she loves coming in when I'm talking. This is Cheeks, by the way. This is a good relative of mine. So the work that I do now, I am very grateful to be in the position of being really aligned with my colleagues, with my friends, with my comrades all across Turtle Island and beyond. And I really have an immense gratitude for a lot of the mentors and elders who have walked into my life at different stages that just really helped me connect back to Mother Earth, connect back to these pathways that I started to notice were almost forcibly covered by colonial ways, by colonial thinking, colonial patterns. And as I started to allow myself to fully listen and embrace what these elders were teaching me, I started to really reconsider my own actions, my own thinking, and remembering back to when I was a kid, when I would have this deep love for different parts of nature. What's coming for me is when I was probably about 4 or 5 years old, there was this little blue butterfly, the first time I had ever seen a blue butterfly in my life. And this butterfly let me hold it on my finger. And I just remember observing this butterfly, felt like forever, felt like eternity, but it's probably only a brief moment. And later on in life, I found out that this butterfly no longer exists. And with that acknowledgement, I do send my gratitude to that butterfly, to the life that that butterfly had. And that was natural, that was home to here in the San Francisco Bay Area, and had shared the same air, shared the same waters, shared the same affinity for the flowers and the mountains, just as I did. And although that butterfly doesn't exist in our lifetime now, I'm able to carry on that those same feelings of appreciation, of a regenerative life that that butterfly was able to just teach me, just by sitting on my finger just for a little moment. And going back to a lot of the teachings that the elders have shared with me, there was so much gentleness and so much patience that each one of them had spent with me. And of course, like each one of our teachers and mentors and loved ones, have their different way of going about things with us by sharing the kind of wisdom that they feel that we'd be able to receive. And sometimes it could be funny, sometimes it could feel a little like strict, or sometimes it could just feel very comfortable and just being confident in your own skin and feeling sure of yourself. And all of these teachings allowed me, as a young Native woman in an area that is predominantly mixed with Black, Brown, Asian, and all other different cultures. And still, again, like we're all navigating through like these colonial structures. But those teachings that those elders had showed me was that it is absolutely okay for me to return back to Mother Earth if everything seems confusing. With all those learnings in the books, all those learnings and the tests and exams, etc. And so I allowed myself that patience, I allowed myself that grace, and gave myself an opportunity to return back to Mother Earth. And one of those ways was actually deepening my relationship with the water. I had a fear of water because I had a drowning experience when I was a kid. And living with that fear, I felt prevented me from reaching a part of me that I had no understanding. And in a way, that fear had taught me how to continue to be patient, continue to be gentle, and to be strong during times of worry, times of sadness, times of happiness and joy. And I was always able to return back to the water. And I'm like 30 now, I'm 31. And so the way that I think now, the way that I speak now, my younger self would probably think, who have you been hanging out with? Because how did you start talking like this? How did you start to feel comfortable to talk like this? And I guess my younger self would be very happy to be able to be in this position right now, because there's this deep understanding as a kid that I was always connected to nature, but I didn't really know how to go about it. I didn't know how to speak about it with other people. And I also didn't have to do it alone, because I was shown by those elders. And when I say elders, it's not just the older folks that we see with salt and pepper hair. The elders also include the pelicans, the redwood trees, the rocks, the sand, the seaweed, even the roly-polies, all these kinds of elders and wisdom keepers and knowledge holders that I just allowed myself to sit and observe and listen to them. Not just listen with my ears, but listen with my heart, listen with my mind, listen with my spirit. And I continue to listen. I continue to allow myself to listen, because there's so much wisdom that can be shared in just a brief moment. And I think, especially as Indigenous peoples, just listening to the previous talkers and presenters, like each one of us are representing our own communities. Each one of us are representing the lifetimes, the life ways that had been shown to us. And our words are very precious, are very sacred. And I think it's very important for us to I guess one of the teachings that I get to share with you all is that when we get the opportunity to speak, we get to speak with purpose. We get to speak truthfully, and we get to be reminded that when we speak, that we are all connected, not just to each other because we are speaking with words, but we are connected but deep down to the roots of Mother Earth's belly, and that she will always hold us. She will always care for us. She has cared for us before our lifetime, and she will care for us after our lifetime. And how amazing for us to be able to get this chance, just a little time in what we call time, just a little moment to just allow ourselves to be present. And yeah, I'm just grateful. Those are kind of like all the words that want to be shared right now about, I guess, my life and how I'm here. And I think one of the other things that's coming up for me are just the title of us being together and having like a youth perspective, or what I am now allowing myself to change that term youth into emerging leaders. Us as emerging leaders, we are using all of those skills, all of those teachings, and putting it into practice. Not just because it's our work, but because it is a pathway that has been shown to us that it is important for us to listen to those teachings and to share those teachings that align, like if we're talking about rights of nature, which we are, like in talking about rights of nature, that we are allowed to share these stories. We are allowed to share those inspirations. And we are also allowed to share those questions, like Quetza was saying, the curiosity, allowing ourselves to be curious. And yeah, so I'm very grateful to be in this position now of soon to be like I guess already like a little mentor to some young folks who I've been able to cross paths with, and knowing that GARN Youth Hub, and let's see, the Mashpee Native Environmental Ambassadors, there's the Bayou Youth Leadership Program, there's movement rights, there's different outlets like Pioneers, 7 Directions of Service, Stop Ecocide Youth. So many different organizations exist, and I wish that I could name them all at the top of my head, but those are the ones that are sort of popping out. So those are the ones that are local to me here on Turtle Island. And now I'm so happy to be connected with the others that had presented. So for any folks who are not following movement rights, now is your chance to follow movement rights on social media, and like just get the chance to see the kind of work that we get to do with Indigenous peoples in Turtle Island, and to uplift the movement that these communities are bringing forth themselves, and how we as a collective are able to work with each other when it comes to addressing the narratives that we think and feel can move us towards the directions of a brighter, healthier, safer, cleaner future for the next 7 generations to come. And I'm just going to leave it at that because my room is dark and I'm slowly fading away. So Mado, thank you everyone for hearing my words. And looking forward to any questions or anything like that.
Thank you so much, Isabella, for sharing all the lessons you have learned from both humans and non-humans alike, from Turtle Island and beyond. Our next speaker is Maurice Mburu, also known as Halisi Mondre. He is a Kenyan-born, Rwanda-based climate culture artist and founder of the Africa Climate and Social Justice Creatives Award, which empowers artists to address climate, culture, and social justice through their work. He uses music to amplify the voices of Indigenous communities and is the first African creative to be nominated for the Climate Creatives Awards 2025 for his song Green War. We're going to share a song of his now before Maurice shares his story.
Yo, seeing what is happening. Survive, we gotta survive. Hata joto mingi ikipanda. Alive, we need it alive. Sito irio no kinya tuhate. Mababu walinusa mvua. That was their only meteorology. Munhui wemvura kunhua. That was their only meteorology. Ujanja ya weather forecasting iko hapa juu yetu. So we use it kwanza this time that the climate is changing. Akpele dede nyutor yanebelele nhimwibagirwe kwibimera urubuzima. Lazima ujipange na maelezo, ujue kukinyesha na jua ikiwaka. Mababu walinusa mvua. That was their only meteorology. Munhui wemvura kunhua. That was their only meteorology. Ujanja ya weather forecasting iko hapa juu yetu. So we use it kwanza this time that the climate is changing. Tell the people. Ujanja, ujanja,
All right. My name is Maurice Mburu. Artistic name is Halisi Mondre. I think on my side I can say good morning. I'm privileged to be part of this, and I'm privileged to do this presentation. I'm sorry my screen is not so clear, but we'll get on with it. So I am fond of Africa Climate and
Was Maurice frozen for everyone?
apart from that song, that appreciating our traditional meteorology information ways that could be useful now and was useful then, especially now that we're talking about climate adaptation. And so I'd love me as a person and how I view nature and how I think nature resonates to, and how I think my philosophy the organization. And I feel like it is also, my philosophy is also deeply rooted in my culture and the information that I've been able to get from my ancestors and people who. So I believe that nature nature is life. Nature is life itself, and life is a shared is a shared experience between beings existing in a specific space. And we believed in my community, we believed that nature is one. We are all part of nature, and that's why we prayed under trees. We believed that the God's dwelling place is Mount Kenya, in the forest, in the mountain. Uh, we believed the best way to talk to God is to talk to nature. And because we believe that we are all one, life is one, and we are part of God. So God is not separate from us. We are part of Him, we are inside Him, and we share His life. And that is what we call nature. And so, for example, when women wanted to pray to God, they wake up in the morning, very early in the morning, and they would pour some pigweed seeds on the doorsteps. And when the birds of the air land on the doorsteps and they start eating, that's when they'd start talking to God. So that is how important nature is mm, in my community and in other communities. For example, in Zimbabwe, they believe that God lives in the baobab tree. Baobab stores a lot of water for them. They live in the desert. There are communities in Africa where when a child dies, he or she is buried in a tree, and they believe that that allowed the child to live the life that he would have lived if he was alive, because he's connected to that tree again. So I'd say in this realm, uh, we are we believe we exist physically, but we also exist spiritually. And for example, in my community, we believe that people die, they go to a resting place, and this resting place is somewhere in a vegetation. It's somewhere green, it's somewhere full of trees. So when we talk about sustainability as indigenous communities, people think it's a foreign concept. No, it's not a foreign concept. It is a spiritual concept that was connected and is still connected. And if we could view it that way, if we could go back and use our indigenous knowledge to view life that way, then I don't think we can ever destroy the trees. I don't think we can ever destroy the waters. I don't think we can ever allow civilization to come in between us and the relationship with other alive human beings, because nature has its own balance. Nature has its own communication. That's why there are people who feel like they feel good when they walk barefooted, because there is that contact with nature. And it has been proven that human beings emit an electromagnetic not human beings, but Earth emits an electromagnetic force that is beneficial to the human bodies. That's why now people are drinking electrolytes. Like there is a sudden walk of health, people trying to live healthy. But that was a normal life. Like in my community, we used to drink soda ash water. So it is normal life for us, and we should be able to embrace nature. We should be able to enrich this life form instead of destroying it. So as an artist, because I am an artist, what is art? Art 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 is a manifestation of vibration And when I say this, I think it looks a bit, bit complicated, but it is what it is. It's a manifestation of a vibration. Vibration can be either frequency, that is a vibration of sound waves, that is words, poems, song, instrumentals, and nature itself is an artist because nature manifests also in sound vibration. When you go to the river, you feel calmness, feel that sound of water. It's very calm. It's very satisfactory. It is very satisfying. When you go to the ocean, if you hear the waves, when you go to the trees and the wind, you feel that sound. It's good. And the other vibration, because nature is also an art, the other vibration is vibration of light. That's why you see a flower, you're like, wow, that flower looks so good. When you see the green grass, when you see the sky, when you see, there is that, trying to see the beauty, and that's the vibration of nature in light. And so all these things are connected to art. So as an artist, you are a singer, you're using words, you're using melodies, that's the same way as vibration of sound waves. Or you're drawing, you're creating this art, art and craft stuff, painting. That's the vibration of light. You're creating the different variation of lights. You're using them to depict a certain thing. And so it is very natural for an artist to use their talents to talk about nature, because you are exhibiting characteristics of nature yourself by being an artist, because nature is an artist. So we should use art more to communicate about what's happening in nature and to communicate this very important information that we need to strike a balance. We need to strike a balance. We need to make sure that how the nature communicates with itself to create a suitable environment. Because, for example, you find when you go to different countries, you find there is a different climate that has been influenced either by the lake, by the ocean, by the trees, and this climate has influenced growing of certain crops, growing people adapting to certain ways of economic ways of living. And so that is a balance. And so when we destroy that balance, that's why we're having problems. We're wondering, well, who is gonna save us? But the savior is not an external intervention. The savior is internal. We have to accept that we need to maintain this balance. We need to reinstate it. No matter the civilization, no matter the innovation, the first innovation should be, how do we strike a balance? How do we make sure that nature is communicating with itself like it ought to be in this environment? And so we should also stop advocating for things that are going to destroy this balance. For example, not involving the indigenous communities in carbon credit, allowing people from other areas to come into those forests and destroying them. So we are trying to create innovations, but these innovations are not striking a balance with nature. So I'll urge everybody to strike a balance with nature. I'll urge everybody to use their talent, to use one of the attributes of nature of being an artist, if you're an artist, to continue depicting and showing this information. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Morris, for explaining your art as innovation for nature and balance, linking indigenous culture to climate adaptation and sustainability as a spiritual concept. Unfortunately, Wara, our next speaker, is unable to join us today, but we hope to collaborate again with her in the near future. So now we've reached the Q&A portion of our session, and thank you all for your attention so far. So we have one question for Aina, I believe specifically, by anonymous attendee. I hope they're still here. So they ask, how are you engaging young people to be active in protecting the wetlands?
Okay. Am I audible?
Yes, we can hear you good.
Okay. Thank you very much for the questions. I believe that young people have a really crucial role in protecting wetlands, of course. So in our community, that we try to engage them with the creative way. And for example, that we organize a festival that called Gelisah in Lahan Basah, or in English we can say it anxiety in wetlands, so that the theme of the festival. So that we use why we use this term, we want to reflect that anxiety about the threat facing wetlands ecosystems through painting. This anxiety transformed into visual message that invite others to reflect, care, and take part in protecting environment. So young people could express their creativity while also learning about the value of wetland itself. Here in our Aceh Wetland Instagram, that we have post some picture that anyone could see here. I guess yeah, we can see it. We can see it. So I will share you the link of the Instagram so you can see the picture how the young people paint of the anxiety in the wetlands. So this essential of painting that we share to the others, yeah, so the people can share the awareness and the young people is more engaged that to protecting wetlands is not really strict to the point, is not really that formal. Everything is could be if you are expert in art, so then you can do painting or you can do this make a song for saving the wetlands. So yeah, we can collaborate with any sectors. So that's all for me. Thank you also for the question.
Perfect. So now we have a question from Carla Perkins. They ask, I am wondering how all of you found GARN. I believe maybe we should answer this one at a time. Maybe we can start with Quetza.
Yeah, no, thank you for the question. I found GARN in my research. I feel like I'm freezing. Can everyone hear me okay? Okay, sweet. I found GARN, the Global Alliance for the Rights of Nature, in my research. I was introduced to planetary citizenship early on in my master's program, and then that led me to kind of look at just like planetary citizenship, led me to look at Earth jurisprudence, and from there I kind of found GARN publishing all these amazing pieces. And so I found GARN, I think, in 2021, and then I became a part of the GARN Youth Hub as a facilitator and at the end of 2023. And so it's been a beautiful journey to go from studying and reading everything GARN had published, and looking up at looking up to some of those authors like Cormac, and just seeing how GARN was like at the Cochabamba gathering in 2010 and supported the 2008 constitutional change for Ecuador. Yeah, constitutional change. And yeah, my journey with GARN has been very beautiful, and it started 4 years ago. So yeah, thanks for a good question.
Maybe Isabella can go next.
Yeah, so I learned about GARN, Global Alliance for the Rights of Nature, probably around 2017. And this is when I had learned about the Universal Declaration for the Rights of Mother Earth. And there's a really condensed version that GARN had shared on their website, which I copied. I was trying to figure out how to share it. But maybe I'll have one of the organizers share it to everyone. But that's how I learned about GARN, and I only very recently learned that there were hubs that people can join. And when I saw that there was a youth hub, I think that was probably about 2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago. And I very only recently started to become more involved because of being able to get to know Quetza a little more, because we found out that we live in the same state and our paths crossed a lot more often than we had thought. Yeah. Highly encourage folks. Like, if you're just getting into rights of nature, would highly encourage taking the time to read the Universal Declaration for the Rights of Mother Earth, and read it with a friend or a loved one and talk about it with each other, and really dive into the wording too. It's really informative.
Thank you so much, Isabella. Perhaps Morris can go next.
Hi. I found. Can you? Sorry. So I discovered GARN. I think. Coco. Is it this year or last year? Yeah. After I released a song called Oge, which is called Indigenous. It's called means indigenous knowledge in my community, and I use music basically to craft a certain message. And I've heard about I forgot the lady that just said she works on wetland and she's ready to collaborate on a song that communicates about wetland. That's something I do, and so I encourage also other artists to use their art to communicate and to give this beautiful information out there. Also I do I connected through climates. I connected GARN through climates. I discovered them on Instagram, and shout out to them for connecting me with Coco and the amazing team. Also I do a creative consultancy where we try and give organization a creative direction. And so that's something that I would love also other artists to venture into. Like, it is one thing to say that organizations are not using art to communicate about sustainability, and it's another to say, okay, I want to help them do it. So if we could also explore that, and also if there are organizations that are ready, we can work on something to give a creative direction on matters sustainability for your organization based on your mission. That's something I'm ready to do. I'm also a part for a movement called March for a Planet, where we do caravans. We are planning a caravan to go to South Africa for G20 and to take the indigenous voices to these tables of discussion. We'll also be going to the Africa Climate Summit in Addis Ababa. So look out for that. Follow me for any questions and for any collaborations. I'm ready to be of help. So yeah, any questions, I'm ready to answer. Thank you.
Yeah. And for Aina, how did you find about GARN?
Is very interesting. I know that one of GARN member, maybe Boni Fesiul. I'm so sorry if I'm not correctly to spell the name, but we are, me and him, in the same forum of an event, an environment event. So he introduced that he called to all of members in the event itself, in the forum, that who want to speak about the indigenous right and extra. So because of that, I introduced my community, Aceh Wetland Forum. And here we go. And I'm here with GARN collaboration. So I'm so happy to be here. That's it.
Thank you so much. And we have one question for Morris. What has been the impact that you have seen from your art and music in your community or beyond?
Yeah, thank you for that. One of the impacts from my music is, I've been able now to, like, that song that was played. Uh, I collaborated with an organization from Netherlands, but they do workshops about farmers, telling them about weather information. So I use local language to help organizations, you know, reach their message to the people, and not even to the people, but globally. Other thing is that I've been able to get nominated for awards like climate awards, and to just meet like-minded organizations that have been able to appreciate my work and to push it forward. So generally, the impact of art is what we call behavior change. Music has this hidden power. Like, for example, like, there are songs that when they're just played in the club, everybody just goes down. There are songs that are when I played, everybody feels it. Worship songs, it just gets in your soul. You wanna get closer to God. You wanna pray. So that is power of behavior change. And so climate music and culture music for me, I have been able to influence behavior change. When you listen to my indigenous knowledge song and you understand what I'm saying in my local dialect, you feel the need to go back to your roots. You feel the need to appreciate sustainability. You feel the need to respect nature more, because it is now going to the music is directing you to your spiritual realm. And so for me, I've been able to influence behavior change. Now in my community, people are very cautious. People are like, yeah, there is this song, and I feel like it said this and this. It said you should not cut trees because people, our ancestors used to pray under them. So there is that, behavior change, and it has triggered even my community back home to open their eyes on carbon credit, and to say, why are these people cutting our indigenous trees, and we used to pray under those trees. So that is the most powerful thing that I've been able to achieve, and I'm going to achieve more. And I believe if we could have artists in their own, you don't have to use my culture, use your own culture. There has to be something that you gotta pick up and tell the world that it needs to hear. There has to be something that you can do to influence behavior change. There has to be something you can say. There has to be something you can show. There has to be a way you can participate in this war and participate in making, the world a better place to live in. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Morris. And to wrap up, Coco and I have a question for all of you. Maybe in one sentence or even a few words. What's one concrete action or change you believe young people everywhere could adopt to honor the voice of Mother Earth? Maybe we can start with Isabella.
Can you repeat that question, please?
Sorry, of course. What's one concrete action or change you believe young people, or in your case, emerging leaders, everywhere could adopt to honor the voice of Mother Earth?
I would encourage learning about a success story in your community or around the world, around Mother Earth's belly, that you find inspiring, that you're able to share with someone at least once, maybe once a week, once a month, whatever commitment that you're able to commit to. Share these stories, because then it may encourage you to keep looking further into the great things that are happening and the great things that are possible And it may even inspire you to want to see that great change happen in your own community and in your own relationship to reminding yourselves that you are also part of this sacred system of life here on Mother Earth's belly. Thank you.
Thank you, Isabella. Perhaps Quetza can go next.
Yeah. I would invite anyone listening right now to just close their eyes and give gratitude to Mother Earth and to pray for a good, healthy, uh, harmonious future for all of us here on planet Earth. That would be my one action.
Thank you, Quetza. Perhaps Aina can go next.
Okay, thank you so much. In my perspective, maybe what we can do as a youth is to make change is collaboration. So wherever you are, you can collaborate because we cannot to do a movement with ourselves as an individuals. So because of that, we as an individuals can connect you with your closely movement or organization, or then the organization itself can collaborate with another organization, and or maybe the government. So when we collaborate and we do the massive thing, so this is can make our Mother Earth or the right of indigenous people is can spread our awareness is more wide. So yeah, that's from me.
Thank you, Aina. And last but not least, Morris.
I think for me, I'd love to. Can you recap the question a bit? I get it
Yes,
again.
of course. What's one concrete action or change you believe young people everywhere could adopt to honor the voice of Mother Earth?
Yeah, thank you very much. I'd love to echo the words of Aina when she said about collaboration, but also to add a bit in that for us who are speaking to each other, for us, for the youths that we have this common goal. I think we can be able to agree on priorities that we can recruit other artists to do, and create a concrete action that is that are happening simultaneously in our communities. I think collaboration, agreement, and setting of priorities is what we would need to achieve, concrete action in making sure that we give Mother Earth a voice. Concrete action goes down even to law. Goes down to proposition of creation of laws that protect indigenous communities. And if we could have these laws, agreed upon like globally, and then acted upon locally, then that can be an amazing thing to do. In terms of artists, I just continue saying that use whatever talent that you have to communicate, to partner with relevant organizations, or even your fellow youth. We can, so that we can be able to get that information out there. Thank you.
So that brings us to the end of our session today. I know I'm personally so blown away by everything you all shared, and yes, feel very deeply honored to have shared this space with you all. So thank you so much today for sharing your time, energy, and such powerful insights. We've explored the importance of rights of nature, youth perspectives, and Indigenous worldviews alongside so much more. Unique storytelling told with heart and soul from global perspectives. So on behalf of GARN Youth Hub and Youth for Ecocide Law, thanks to everyone who helped make this session possible, and of course our audience for taking the time to join us today. We'll be sharing the recording and key resources soon, so please keep an eye on your inbox and our channels and make sure to join our community if you haven't already to stay involved. And as a final note, we hope you carry today's energy forward into collective action, one that reconnects us to Mother Earth and truly listens to her voice within and around us. Thank you to all the speakers again for such beautiful inspiration. It's an honor, and we look forward to gathering again until next time.